This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by the Intake Academy. Do you know how to cement relationships with more of your ideal clients, get them to commit to you, and send you more referrals than you ever thought possible? Visit www.intakeacademy.com, where you will get the strategies you need to make the most of your marketing and advertising dollars. Plus, develop a team of intake specialists and attorneys who convert more qualified case opportunities and build meaningful relationships with prospective clients. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins with Chris Mullins Tells All, and the Chris Mullins Tells All podcasts are very short, and I'm going to be talking about structuring intake. That's a big conversation. It's a big topic. I'm not going to be able to cover everything, so I'm just going to cover a short list of things that are important, and you can easily, implement these items very quickly. Okay. And I am going to look at my notes. This is informal, and I am going to look at the clock so I can stay time bound. Okay. And before I forget, if you want to see more Chris Mullins Tells All podcasts, and if you would like to be invited to our bi-monthly intake focus meetings that are for anybody that's in intake, whether it's the executives, the leaders, the managers, and the intake team to jump on informally every other month for an hour just to learn about intake. Again, it's called Intake Focus. And you'll also get my book via PDF, and you'll be opting in at the same time to receive the Monday morning email stimulators. So just go to intakeacademy.com and opt in for the book, and everything else will fall into place. You'll be on our list, and you'll get invitations for the intake focus sessions every other month. Okay? All right. Okay, so one of the most important things, just for obvious reasons, but also it's a big discussion right now. Well, not just right now, maybe the past couple of years with regards to intake and just all businesses is staff. So the most perfect that you could have would be in your office, having your intake sales team under your roof at your firm in your office. That's just the best. That's the best, but it's not always possible for a variety of different reasons. So when you've decided that it's not possible, what you should do is go virtual. I mean, pretty much in that order. Again, I prefer you had everybody in-house under your roof, all together in the same department. More, I guess what I mean is in the same room, ideally. Some firms are calling it bullpen. Some are calling it call center, sales department. I mean, call it whatever you want, but it's important that your intake sales team, they're all together in the same room. Not somewhere over at, another office at one address and another. I mean, they've got to be together because they feed off of each other. They need each other. Well, basically every department, all team members need each other to feed off of each other for energy, for productivity, for motivation, for getting out of a slump, for learning from each other. When you overhear what somebody else is saying, the hum, that's what I call it, the hum that you hear in an intake sales department when you walk through. Everybody's on the phone, and it's this hum. It's a great, exciting, wonderful feeling, at least for me. And so you want to have that hum. You got to have it. So again, ideally in-house, in office, in under your roof at your law firm. When you can't do that, hire your own intake team. What I mean by that is I don't recommend outsourcing to a call center, another call center, or an answering service. Everybody's calling it something different, but at the end of the day, it's another business that some only work with law firms, some work with other businesses and not just law firms. But all of them, I mean, they're good businesses, they're needed, but they have multiple law firms as clients or just other clients in general. So if you think about it, how can they do an amazing, always nail it, convert, extremely wonderful experience for your prospective clients if they're not only focusing on your firm? It's not possible. I've for 30 years now, I've been working with law firms with the Intake Academy. And when I first started out with my own business, I was in call centers in corporate America. Through my career, I did start my own 24/7 call centers with with folks in the United States and other countries. And so it's a difficult business. It's a great, necessary, needed business. I wish there was an amazing secret formula to start it and create it and run it. And that would be amazing. I would love it because we would probably do it. But it's just a tough business. And the people that created these call centers that you're outsourcing to and the answering services, they're good people. They're smart. They want to do a great job, but it's just not possible if they're working with multiple law firms and or multiple businesses and not just your firm. It's not possible. It's not possible to nail it 99% of the time. And that's what you want because you're spending a lot of money on marketing, a lot of time, money, energy, and effort on marketing, huge dollars to get the leads to actually call you and go to your website and opt in and go to your chat and follow your instructions, everything that you want. You can't miss it. You can't miss one. You're in business to look at every lead as gold. And if your own intake team is in your building under your roof, you can absolutely control that more. If your own intake team, your team that you hire and you vet and you train and interview and all of that, they're virtual, you can control that. But you can't if you outsource to others. Okay. So that's the first thing. The other thing too is I want you to have a 24/7 intake sales team. I mean, not like, okay, finally, we know that we can't have everybody in-house for whatever the reason is at our particular firm. And so we heard Chris and we've created our own virtual intake team that are our team members, our employees, or our contractors. And so we did it. But they're not 24/7, 365. You haven't quite gone there yet. And most firms that don't do that, it's because you have a supervisor or a manager or a leader or a director in intake that in some cases they themselves are concerned that means they have to work 24/7, 365. It doesn't necessarily, but sometimes those are the reasons that brakes are put on that kind of concept. Another is you might feel like it's just too much heavy lifting, too hard, too difficult, too hard to monitor. Or you might be saying, we don't get enough calls at 2 or 3 in the morning. Well, that's not, you might not get tons of calls, but lose just one. Lose one case that somebody called at 2 or 3 in the morning and they had a car accident. That happens. It does happen for a lot of different reasons. So there's no good reason not to do it, except that other folks at your firm, other leaders or team members are worried that they will have to do it themselves or be available because now they have that kind of team. That could be true too. That part could be true. I don't know. It's different for every business how you set up your department. But the bottom line is you got to have a 24/7, 365. You're not spending money on marketing somehow and saying that, okay, the only leads that we're going to get are leads that they're not going to require any help on Saturdays and Sundays or after 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday, or definitely not in the holidays, not during any of the holidays at all. This is just not going to happen. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so that's what you have to do. 24/7 virtual 365 under your own roof and or virtual or just virtual. The other is that, let's just say you go virtual and you're hiring folks in different countries. I know there's a lot of reasons to do that. Well, there's a lot of really smart, intelligent, really hardworking, ethical, high integrity, strong character. Again, work. They want to work people in other countries. In fact, I'll be honest, just in my own, 30-year career, and even not just law firms, I've worked with other businesses too, in the early days when I first started my own business. The folks that I've worked with in other countries, whether it's the Philippines or India or Mexico, they are more hardworking people I've worked with myself in the United States, the American people that I've worked with. I know it's not that way for everybody, but I'm just saying in my own experience working with law firms and other businesses and training people, that's what I've seen. It seems that folks in other countries, for whatever the reason, I don't want to analyze it and get into it, they just work. They want to work. They want to work. They work. There's no excuses. They want to work. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in. But you have to do your due diligence when you hire a virtual intake sales team also. You need to, create your own best practices for what works for attracting and hiring the right people. You need to check references. You need to do Zoom meetings so that you can see each other and you check your technology. You got to do all those things. You've got to do onboarding. It's not different. It's not different. In fact, you have to do even better because the folks are virtual and you're not going to be able to create that hum that I talked about earlier. The way I was talking about, you can still create the hum, but that means that you have to realize, well, the virtual people, they are our people too. They are our team too. They just don't work in the building. Just like when COVID started, everybody got it then. Everybody understood virtual then. Everybody worked really hard at creating a team experience. But I have seen that since, COVID is definitely still here, 100%, but I have seen over the last maybe year, maybe 2 years, that all the pivoting that we did and learned in that time period, when things first started with COVID and after that, it doesn't seem that we took those best practices for that pivoting and carried it over to now. So think about that maybe, but you've got to do all the same things with the virtual team, 100%. You can absolutely create a hum if you include them in everything. Just think it through. It's not impossible. You can do it. You just have to be willing to do it. Okay, so let's see. So right now, let me just look at the clock here. Okay, so right now I'm talking about the people part, in person in your building or out of, virtual or other countries. It doesn't really matter where you hire people from virtually, as long as you do the right thing, hire the right people. So, but my take is out, in other countries, you seem to have a better selection of really hardworking people. Okay. And I know there's other benefits too. But the other piece that I want to mention about that is don't be lazy. I mean, when you go and you hire folks that are really amazing in other countries, pay attention to their culture, understand their culture. You want them to understand your culture and your business culture and your firm culture, but you've got to understand their culture. If you don't understand their culture and who they are and their business mindset, and you just assume that because they can speak really good English and they have even good references and a good business background, that the communication part, the relationship part of everybody being on the same page is going to work. That's a big mistake because it doesn't. There's a lot of work with trying to bring virtual team members from other countries into your firm to feel like they have arrived, they are home, they are at the right career at your firm, because you also have to integrate your current team members, whether it's you have some people in intake in your current office, or just the rest of your firm, human resources, all of it. You have to integrate that with these folks and vice versa. So you have to learn a lot so that you can understand. If you don't do that, you're going to have more difficulty with conversion because there'll be some missing pieces. The puzzle pieces, they won't fit together perfectly. So it's not just, are they really technically strong? Can they speak really good English? Do they have a background in business and customer service and call centers and sales and maybe other law? That's not enough. They're not in your country. You've got to do some extra work there. But I'm all for it. I'm all for it. You can absolutely do it. It can be absolutely extremely effective. Okay. Don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. Let's see. Okay. So that's like an obvious part to talk about because you need the people. So we talked about the people. The other is, I'll just give you a short little list of my best practices, and not in any special order, that you've got to do RMFD, record, monitor, feedback daily. RMFD, record, monitor, feedback daily. You have got to do it. I mean, you've got to do it. If you're spending money on marketing, which you got to, in order to even have an intake team, you've got to record those marketing calls. Check the laws for recording calls in your state. That goes without saying. But you've got to record them. If you're spending money on marketing to get leads to come to you, to your firm, however it is, whether it's chats or web forms or phone calls, it doesn't matter. You have got to record those calls and find a way to do it. The marketing agencies that you're working with, most of them are recording the calls. So just work it out with them. But there's plenty of ways to record calls. There's CallRail and there's Ring Central. Ring Central is really going kind of crazy in an amazing way with AI. That's a whole nother subject that we'll talk about at Chris Mullins Tells All podcast in the near future. But the tools are there. The tools are there. So don't ignore those tools. And there goes my head. It has a mind of its own sometimes. But so record your calls, monitor them, pay attention, listen to them, and give feedback to your team. Do it. If you said to me, hey, Chris, what's the one thing that I can do right now? I can just go implement right now to improve conversion. What is it? I would only give you one answer. I wouldn't say like hire Chris Mullins. I wouldn't even say that. I'd say record, monitor, feedback daily. Just do that. You don't even have to be amazing at it. Honestly, what you focus on expands. What gets measured gets done. Do it. Just do it and do it. You'll never regret it. It will be amazing. I'm going to expand more on that again in another Chris Mullins Tells All podcast. because there's a lot to unpack even with that, but it's a best practice and you need to do it. Okay. So there's no sense in spending any money on marketing if you're not going to inspect the calls. I mean, you're really just wasting your money and your time. Look at it as a marketing insurance policy. Okay. And you do need to do marketing and figure it out. You can't just, I mean, I do get law firms that reach out to me. I've just had a couple recently that are looking to really grow and they have the right mindset and all of that. But they don't have their marketing tightened up. They don't even really have a marketing plan. And, you know, I think they were saying that most of the leads that they get are through referrals and that's really easy and we don't have to worry about it. Well, that's not true. Referrals, I mean, haven't you yourself ever been referred to go to a certain doctor or business or what have you, and because this other business was referred to you, you took them up on it and they just failed miserably? It's not like a slam dunk with a referral, and you don't want to give anybody at your firm that mindset. It's not. You have to work just as hard, if not harder, because of your reputation with the folks that are referring. So it's not any different, but it's not enough. It's not enough. So you got to have your marketing tightened up. You can't come to Chris Mullins to improve conversion if you don't have a strong, regular flow of qualified leads. You gotta take care of it, okay, and pay attention to it. So really, really important. And then you got to do RMFD, record, monitor feedback daily. And then on the same token with chats and online web forms, you've got to inspect it. Just do mystery chats, do mystery web form opt-ins, do mystery calls. You've got to inspect it. You can't just flip the switch and everything's okay. You've got to micro manage the inspection process of all things intake, starting with the money that you're spending, which is in marketing. You got to inspect the lead flow. Are they coming in? Are they the right leads? What's happening when they get to your front door? How long is it taking? So you've got to pay attention to that. These are the things that might sound like, well, that's kind of like basic. I wouldn't be bringing them up if we were nailing it. Most law firms aren't nailing it. They might be nailing a piece of it, but not all of it. It's bottom line. That's the truth. That's the only reason I'm talking about it. It's a best practice, but it's not 101. And it should be like one of the first things that you do. How can you have a business if you don't have leads? And then how can you continue that business and grow if you don't know what's going on with the leads? Okay, so I think for today's Chris Mullins Tells All, I was just looking at the clock again. I try to keep these short. I think that's a good amount of information between your team, having your team, and recording your calls and monitoring your calls. The other thing, though, I will leave you with, too, that kind of goes along with this whole package is the worst number in the world is number one. So my mentor, Dan Kennedy, taught me that a long time, I don't know, maybe 25 or more years ago. The worst number in the world is number one of anything. Okay. One marketing strategy, no good. One intake team member, sales team member, one, no good. What happens when the intake salesperson that you currently have, that one person, and I hope it's not your mom or your partner or your wife or your husband or your kids or your niece. I hope it's not a family member because that's a whole nother area. But what happens when that person, then what? Do you just suddenly flip a switch and your leads don't come in anymore like that? It doesn't happen that way. Why would you even want to do that, especially if you have forward momentum? What do? The worst number in the world is number one. The most important thing that you can do is have a backup for a backup for a backup. Redundancy is king. Okay. So always have a backup for a backup for a backup. And I think that's probably a good amount for right now. So again, Chris Mullins tells all. And if you go to intakeacademy.com and you click to get the book, you're going to get a couple of articles. You'll get the book, our Law Firm Conversions book, and the PDF. You'll be opted into the Intake Focus bi-monthly, every other month, 1 hour Zoom meeting. And you'll also get access to the Chris Mullins Tell Us All podcast. I mean, you'll at least know about it sooner than later. Okay, so everyone, be well, stay healthy. So long. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All, where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.